Welcome to Drawing from the Collection Live. My name is Tiffany Wolf-Smith. I am Assistant Curator of Education here at the Modern Art Museum of Fort Worth. We'll be here live every second Sunday of the month with a new artist and a new work to focus on from the permanent collection. So joining us today is Dallas-based artist and educator Andrea Tosten. Andrea is a calligrapher and a bookbinder. She's been doing calligraphy for over 15 years and teaching at Oil and Cotton, which is a maker space in Dallas, for over 7 years. She has been bookbinding at the Book Doctor for over 6 years. She has a Bachelor of Science in Biomedical Science from Texas A&M and a Master of Liberal Arts in Museum Studies from the University of Oklahoma. So a wonderful artist with a diverse educational background. So hi, Andrea. Thank you for joining us today for Drawing from the Collection.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So you have chosen a very important work from the Moderns collection for us to look at today, Agnes Martin's Leaf from 1965. So tell us a little bit about what you love about Agnes Martin.
Well, Agnes Martin was a Canadian-born American artist. After studying and living in New York for a while, she moved to New Mexico, where she built 2 adobe homes. And Agnes remained in those homes, living a mostly solitary life, even after she became a successful artist. Martin donated money generously to organizations that helped marginalized people. Agnes Martin made abstract paintings of shapes and landscapes and gradually began to work in grids and pastel colors to reflect subtle emotions.
Yes, she's an amazing artist and an amazing person, which we love that combo. So tell us what you like in particular about this work.
I love the subtlety. I really enjoy the way that Martin engages you to slow down and look closer and notice the human touch. And I also like to look at the fact that this work was done in 1965, which we know there was a lot going on in that year in the United States and around the world, much like what we have going on in the United States and around the world today. And so I felt like it'd be a really wonderful and necessary piece to draw from the collection today.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful kind of subtle work from a tumultuous time. I'm really glad you picked it. One of my favorites too. So Leaf is currently on view in Gallery 5 on the Modern's ground floor. So we can't wait to see what you've got for us today. What materials do we need for our project?
Well, we're going to need a pencil, pencils of different hardness. If you just have your number 2 pencil, that's okay, we can work with that. And a metal ruler. And what's great about these is it's really easy to cut with them and draw straight lines with them. So having that cork on the back and the squared edges is nice. And then your 9 by 12 inch paper. And we can keep the X-Acto knife optional. We can work around that today as well too, in case you're not wanting to work with sharp objects today.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll go ahead and spotlight Andrea and she can get started on our project. Thanks, Andrea.
You're welcome. Thanks again for having me. All right, so you can see examples here of Agnes Martin inspired pieces. We'll be aiming for something like this in particular today. And so we want to get to where we have a 9 by 9 piece of paper. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use our ruler. And we'll take our pencil and just lightly mark where 9 inches is. And you can use that squared edge there. You can draw a line all the way down to help you, and you can use your X-Acto knife, or using that line, you can keep your metal ruler there, cork side down, fold along that line along the ruler, and then go ahead and really crease it. This is where you can use something like your X-Acto knife or foam folder or something else. You have it, or just your hand, and just crease along that fold back and forth until you start to feel the fibers of the paper weaken right there. Looks pretty good to me. And so now I'm going to take my metal ruler and I'm going to have my cork side up this time. And that cork really helps it not slide around for you, but so you'll hold your hands on the cork. Then rip along that fold there. And then it should give you a nice clean line. And you'll have your 9x9 paper now to mimic the square look of the canvas that leaf was done on. And so now for the next step, now that you have your 9x9, you use your ruler again. And I actually like to go to the edge away from me. I'm right-handed. And then I like having the 9-inch because you can just easily divide the paper by thirds and then thirds again. And so we'll do that one. Mark. And I'm starting with my soft pencil right now, or my number 2 pencil. And I just marked at the 3 and the 6. If you're wanting to experiment with different spacing, feel free to do that. But I'm starting out with dividing my paper into thirds, and then I'm going to half that again. So now I'm doing 1 1/2. And then I'm going to half that again and do 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so now I have where I'm going to draw my lines marked. And so now I'm going to use the edge of the ruler and the edge of the paper to just get an idea of having a nice straight line there. And I'm starting out with making my heavier marks. And so I'm using my softer number 2 pencil, and I'm going ahead and putting quite a bit of pressure. And to make the heavier lines, you can just use the number 2 pencil and make heavy pressure to make your heavier lines, or you can just keep going over the lines a couple of times and get it as dark as you want it as well. That's another method. And while you're making your lines and starting your grid, you want to focus in on breathing calmly and deeply and going nice and slow when you're making your lines. And also, don't get too worried about making them like perfectly straight. That's not what you really want to be focusing on. So remember earlier, I mentioned that Agnes Martin really draws you in to notice that there's a human touch on her work. So when you get really close in, you'll notice that some of the lines are not perfectly straight, or maybe there's a time where she went back over a line in one spot more than she did another spot, or different things like that. So Don't worry too much if it's like, that looks a little bit more crooked than my other lines. You do want to try to use it as a bit of a meditative process. Yeah, that's the other thing as a calligrapher. I really am attracted to mark making and control of line. So I really am just drawn to that. And I also, in thinking about Agnes Martin, I think about other artists who've shown at the Modern, such as Mark Bradford, it had to be extended last year with everything that was going on, but another artist that likes to work in, keep in mind grid, working in grid. And now that I've made my lines on this side, now I've grabbed my harder pencil, so I'm thinking about making my lighter lines. And then again, if you just have the number 2 pencil, just lighten up on your touch or just go over that line one time instead of several times. And that's how you can also achieve a lighter line. But this time I'm going to go halfway in between, so I'm doing 3/8 of an inch. Working in grid can also be a relaxing thing for the mind too. I don't know about everyone else, but it does kind of make me think of like stability and order and some safety, and that can that can be a necessary state of mind when things feel so chaotic and overwhelming. So again, I'm using the harder pencil now, and so I'm making a lighter line. And you can see that as I start to go down the page here. Remember, you're focusing on breathing deeply and calmly, and going nice and slow. You can kind of get a rhythm going. I notice I'm kind of breathing out as I mark the line, and then breathing in slowly as I move my ruler. Okay, now that I've made my lines on this side, I'm going to switch to the other horizontal. And I'm going to do that same division I did before, where I'm going to start by thirds and then half those thirds and so on and so forth. And I started out with my number 2 or my softer pencil last time. So this time I'm going to switch and I'm going to start out with my harder pencil and make the lighter lines first. So I'm doing the thirds again. Then I'm halving those thirds, so 1.5. And then I'm halving the half of those thirds and doing 3 3/4. Let's say 3 3/4. I mean 3/4, not 3 3/4, 3/4. All right. So now I'm starting with my light lines. Keep focusing on breathing deeply and calmly. Okay, now I'm going to switch back to my softer pencil and do my harder lines. Excuse me, my heavier lines. And harder that's another method of making them heavier marks or darker marks. So now I'm doing the 3/8 of an inch to half, my half thirds. Okay, I've made my marks. Now I'm going to make my heavier lines. So yeah, I'm both adding pressure and I'm using my softer pencil. Going slowly and breathing deeply and calmly. Actually had the pleasure of going to New Mexico a few years ago and visiting Taos and visiting the Art Museum of Taos and seeing Agnes Martin's work there is a really wonderful experience. All right. So you can see the grid coming together here. And if you like, you can continue to get smaller and smaller with the size of the squares or rectangles inside your grid, or you can stop at this size if you'd like. Also, if you have some paint, and I wouldn't add any water to the paint if you're just using a regular drawing paper. I just used an acrylic paint on this one and added the subtle colors for subtle emotion with this one, and then added the grid over the top. That's it. Do we want to do another one, or?
I feel good about that, Andrea. If you would, this is so meditative on Mother's Day. Nice, calm.
Yeah. Exactly. So I thought it'd be nice and fitting for Mother's Day. Taking some time for self-care and self-reflection and just slowing down. If nothing else, just slowing down and breathing. Being inspired by the wonderfulness of Agnes Martin's work.